Inferno, in a nutshell, tells the story of Mark, who flies to New York to investigate the disappearance of his sister Rose after receiving a very strange letter from her in the mail. Now, right off the bat, I will say this. Of the Three Mothers franchise, this is the one I have rewatched the most of the four. I didn't know this existed for some time because I watched Suspiria from 1977. It is still one of my absolute favorite movies, horror movies of all time. So as soon as I found out there was more than 2 movies, I was very excited to see what the sequel would look like. So I started the sequel, not expecting much. I expected to like it. But I really, really like this sequel. It's not as good as Suspiria, I will say that, but it's a very solid, very good sequel to Suspiria from 1977. And it is still a movie, I will say, I have always liked ever since I have seen it. My opinion has never changed from this movie. But I do like this movie more on rewatches than I did the previous time. That is kind of my relationship with this movie. Now, right off the bat, this movie has some of my favorite visuals of all of the 4 movies. My favorite of all time being the one where the sister goes into the basement and she has to fetch her keys in that little well puddle. I love that visual when she has to like swim down and see the room. Whenever I think of the Three Mothers trilogy, that is the visual I think of 99% of the time. I absolutely love that. I also like how this is a very different color palette from Suspiria. Yes, they use the same colors, but Suspiria has more of a red look, and this movie has more of a pink and blue look, I will say. And I can appreciate those differences between those movies. That's such a small thing I like. I also like how they expand the Three Mothers in this movie. Now, right off the bat, when you start the movie, you get read from the book about the Three Mothers. And I apologize, I cannot pronounce those names how they're pronounced in the movie. I just cannot pronounce them for the life of me. But I really like that. You get more of an expansion. You also get the expansion when you meet the one who built all those houses eventually at the end when Mark makes his way down and he meets them and that stuff. So I really do like that expansion as well. And I really like how the gore looks too. I think for this time it looks pretty solid on the same level as Suspiria, so I do like that element of this movie. And again, this is just a gorgeous movie. I think it's shot very well. I like how New York is used, especially like the old building and the location. I really like that. And I like the building, even the small things of the neighbor being able to like talk to him through the walls and stuff like that, how they learned. Do I wish they made more of a thing with like a 2008, what they did with 2018 Susie? I really wish they did that with the neighbor and they confront Mark, because they become like a trusted duo trying to figure stuff out. But they don't do that. I wish they would though. And that is a lot to like about this movie, because I really do like this movie and I love the dreamlike feel of this movie. Now, there is some issues coming with that may not be for everyone, but for a majority of the time, I really enjoy like the dream, like all the way from the very beginning of that first visual in the classroom when you get to meet Rome. I really enjoy the element of the movie, but it is not perfect. The worst thing about this movie, I will say, is definitely the story suffers. Again, you have more like the dreamlike kind of feel, atmosphere, which I really adore this movie for. I didn't even realize how long this movie was when I rewatch it. It's like an hour and 47 minutes, which I don't even realize when I watch it. But I like the dreamlike look. It's not going to be for everybody. But the first half of the movie, I recently rewatched this movie for this video. But before that, I haven't watched it in like 8 to 9 months. So I forgot how the first half of this movie, you don't really know what is going on. So that's not going to be for everyone. I'm not the biggest fan of Mark either. Of the entire cast of the movie, he is just the one that is just the most plain, honestly. And I understand that's kind of the point of the character or not. He's fine for his role, but he's not the most interesting. And so he does play a narrative role, because it's hard to say he's the main character, but on technicality, he is the main character. But when you watch the movie, it kind of feels like you don't really have one distinct main character. You kind of like move around to different people while they are experiencing the curse of the Three Mothers. And I really like that part of the movie, and I like that experience of the movie. Now, they do have some lines that are cringy. They do, but that's just a small well, small thing. Also the cats. Now, they have one character. I'm gonna call him the bookstore person because that's how I kind of identify him in the movie. He doesn't like the cats of this movie, and he drowns the cats. Now, I looked at all this stuff before I say something, but in the bag, those were not real cats. So no actual cats were drowned in the movie, but he does get eaten by rats right after, so good on him for that. I don't think they needed to include this scene at all. Yeah, that's not my favorite. And there's another scene involving cats where the cats are attacking someone and it seems like they're being thrown on the actor. And I understand the time and how animals were treated back then in film. I get that part, but I couldn't definitively say. I tried to look up if like there was actual cats like throwing her or not, but I couldn't find a definite source saying if they did. There were some sources saying yes, some sources saying no, so I can't definitively say that was happening. But in the case of that was happening, that definitely makes me look at the movie like, well, that's not great. But again, such a small thing. But as for the actual story of the movie, and not to mention that monologue at the end, I really love that monologue at the end when he talks about that and she kind of like transforms into death. That is great. But the story of this movie, I think the best way to summarize it up, because I was trying to think of how I summarize this movie, because it can be kind of be hard to summarize. But how he flies to New York and he tries to team up with this person, trying to figure out what is going on in this building. And I do think having that floor be underneath, that was interesting. That was something. I don't know how that would work infrastructure wise. I just don't know how that would work physically. I also don't know how to get down to that part. Was there like a staircase and glass? But if that is the case, why wouldn't the three mothers just like not do that if they were trying to hide it? And again, I know that is overthinking it. I absolutely do. But like that's just a small, tiny thing. Story of this movie in 1 minute. Basically, we start with Rose. Rose just writes in the letter that he's eventually going to get and drops off the letter, goes to the bookstore, and the bookstore guy gives her no useful information. She finds herself in the basement and she meets face to face with the mother of this building, the Mother of Shadows. And after meeting the Mother of Shadows, she goes back to her apartment and meets her fate. We then go into the classroom where we meet Mark. Mark sees someone, this mystical girl, and he leaves a letter that his sister has given him. But don't worry, his classmate, his friend, picks it up. And on the way to drop off his letter, she decides to read it in the cab, where she redirects her way to go to the library. She goes to the library to read about the sisters and try to check out this book. And then she eventually calls Mark and is like, oh my god, you should read this letter your sister gave you. It is crazy. But she eventually meets her fate, where then he goes to New York and finds out what happened to his sister when he comes face to face with the Mother of Shadows. And Mark again, he's just I don't know, he's just not the best character. He's like the worst character in this entire movie. And that's just my personal opinion of that particular character. And why is he so cool with his like classmate reading his mail? Because his friend has to phone him in the beginning to say, have you read this insane letter by your sister? And then she gets attacked in the library when she tries to check out the book of the three mothers from the library and tries to steal it. But like, who opens their mail like that? I feel like if that was me, I don't know, that was just something that I would not be happy if I was Mark. Like, opening your mail like that, that's crazy. And even at the end when he tries to talk to her and, you know, building goes bye-bye, I don't know. I really have a good time with this movie. It's not going to be for everybody. It has a dreamlike look that, again, isn't going to be for everybody. But as a fan of Suspiria from the 70s, I absolutely adore this movie. As much as I do recognize its imperfections. So comment down below, have you seen Inferno? Are you a fan of it? Not a fan of it? Comment down below. And the relationship I have with this movie, I like it more as I watch it. So that's the best relationship I can way to describe this movie. So I may pick up on things more. as I rewatch this movie. So, are you a fan of this universe? Comment down below, because next we're talking about Mother of Tears. I'll see you guys there.